Thanks, everyone. So welcome and to our event, and delighted to welcome you all to this jointly organised event with our partner SERAC. Um, we've we've come to a pivotal time in history with the largest ever cohort of adolescents about to come of age. This is both an opportunity and a challenge to create the next generation of healthy, productive, and engaged adults. Um, by health, we don't mean just the absence of illness. We really refer to the sort of wider sense of total well-being in terms of physical, mental, and social well-being. So in our discussions today, we're going to be looking at both talking about traditional health sector and also the more sort of diverse sectors that contribute to well-being in a wider sense. So I'm very excited to have you here. We have a full program. I'm going to ask Dr. Faisal to start his presentation, please. And just we'll control the slides. Natasha is here. There are some people who can't hear, whereas some people can hear.
Can I have my
Yeah,
slides on the screen?
yes. Yeah, next slide, please, Natasha.
No, next slide is the program. Okay. Uh, so everyone, welcome to this meeting. There are people who are joining from the different parts of the world. And so good morning and good afternoon, good evening. Assalamu alaikum for the ones who are Muslims. Um, the title of my presentation is Adolescent Health, and where the multisectoral involvement is definitely required. And when I'm talking about health, I'm focusing much on the reproductive and sexual health. And I have the next slide. So the next slide, I have actually kind of summarized the overall situation of adolescents in Bangladesh. The adolescents and youth currently are 1/3 of the population. So that's a huge segment. So we need to be very careful with them. We need to carefully handle them. That's the reason that we are having this webinar talking much of the multisectoral involvement. The mobility of the adolescent boys and girls has increased manifold. I mean, now we see not only boys coming from the villages and studying in the bigger cities. In Dhaka is full of them. Even the girls are coming out of the village homes, leaving behind their parents and coming to Dhaka and then getting admitted into colleges and universities, and that has increased manifold. So that is an evidence that the education rate among the adolescents and the youths has increased. Uh, Due to the advent of the internet, the access is very high among the adolescents. The adolescents are using it a lot, even in rural areas. The mobile phone, the other gadget, which has changed our life a lot. So mobile phone and has a major influence, and so through the mobile phones, the social media is accessed, and a lot of things is happening. Parents' influence diminishing slightly. I mean, when I was a kid and I was in this college, my parents had a lot of influence on me, and I used to obey them like anything. And so that is a means that there is a change in the social dynamics. The sexual and reproductive health, one issue that we need to flag, that's the adolescents, girls and boys and the youth are engaged in sexual experimentation. A lot of premarital and extramarital sex is happening. And one good thing, these adolescents and youth are contributing to poverty alleviation and social development. Can I have the next slide, please? So, as I mentioned in my the title, that I'll be focusing on the reproductive health and sexual health. So, let me talk about the physical issues that which the adolescents they face, and quite often they don't have a they don't receive a good answer to all of these problems. Acne is a big problem among the girls mostly, and these adolescents, they get the acne and pimples because of the hormonal change, particularly in the female. Onset of menstruation. I mean, still the society is a closed society. So that is no longer, that is longer or shorter than the normal cycle. Menstrual hygiene maintenance is a big issue, and that involves a lot of outside health players. Growth of mustache, beard, pubic hairs, etc., among the boys particularly, and that there is a management problem there. Wet dreams in boys and boys happens, and changes in the voice. So that is a big issue, and quite often in the villages, particularly, there are a lot of superstition about these things. Changes in body contour, particularly the breasts of the females, there that changes, and so that has to be, the social perspective has to come in and help these girls, particularly when their body size and shape are changing. Reproductive tract infection, uh, that happens quite commonly among the, particularly among the females. The infection, and which causes healthy life loss among sexually active adolescents, vulvovaginitis and urological issues, and so these are all the reproductive tract infections and all the infections which commonly happen, particularly in the women, in the female. Can I have the next slide, please? The sexual act and their consequences, as I said, that a lot of premarital sex, sexual experimentation are happening. So, experimentation with sexual organs, inquisitiveness, and out of that inquisitiveness, sexual acts, etc., are happening. Much more problematic, particularly in Bangladesh, is this child marriage and women's median age getting, well, I mean, getting married. I mean, the median age is quite low. So these girls, I mean, they are getting married at the age of 14, 15, 16. Um, uh, so the girls, after getting married, they end up having a baby. They become pregnant. So teenage pregnancy is also becoming a problem in the society. These teenage pregnancies, they end up in preterm labor, occurs when regular contraction results in the opening in the cervix after weeks 20 and before 37. These are called preterm labor, and it can result in premature birth. So these are all happening due to the child marriage, teenage pregnancies. Intrauterine growth restricted, the babies, because the uterus is very small in a teenage girl, and in that one, the baby which is now growing there, they can't grow properly, and so as such the intrauterine growth is restricted. Abortions are happening. I mean, a lot of these pregnancies, unwanted pregnancies, end up in abortions, and abortion related, there are some problems. The menstrual regulation and menstrual regulation with medicine. I mean, in Bangladesh, we have, abortion is a criminal offense, and so abortion cannot be done. But if the menstruation is stopped for a certain period of time, say 6 to 8 weeks to 10 weeks, a girl can walk into a clinic where menstrual regulation MR with MVA, with manual vacuum aspiration. With that procedure, the menstruation could be regularized. And then on top of that, the menstrual regulation with medication using two types of pills, that's available in the open market. And then the girls, the young women, they can walk into a pharmacy and buy it. Um, but having said that, these are the menstrual regulation with medicine and with MVA. A lot of unsafe abortions are happening. Unwanted pregnancies. I mean, these girls, they don't know where to go, and as such, with minimal medical standards or nothing is there, this abortion happens. Those from problem families are at high risk. So this is a social issue that there are a lot of families where the husband and wife, they are not in good terms. So quite often the family situation environment is not good. And then in those families, the girls are at high risk. Can I have the next slide, please? I will show just a bar showing that the median age at the first marriage for women, the dark bar is the 20 to 24. So, and then the 25 to 29, the the the, the lower bars, these are the 25 to 29. So a lot of these, if you just add up these ones, you will see that a lot of the girls are getting married at a very early age. Can I move on to the next slide, please? Adolescent reproductive health concerns has a continuation. Can I have the next slide, please? Uh, the adolescent reproductive health are connected with other issues like the mental health. So the mental health, as we all know, that mentally the girls and also the boys, they can be disturbed due to a lot of issues, and the issues which I have mentioned earlier, leading to depression, psychosis, mania, uh, the the disorders in their behavior, anxiety, tension, and leading to suicide. A lot of these young boys and girls are ending up their life into suicide. These are all due to the mental health issues. Besides that, there are behavioral problems in these girls and boys because they are involved in drug. There are many of them, even in the villages, tobacco, alcohol, illicit drugs. So a lot of these things are available in the society. So that's being used, and that's also used as an experimentation. And many of the boys and girls, they try it for one. They want to see that what is there in these things, and then they gradually become addicted to this one. So risky behaviors. Many of the boys, particularly, we hear often that in the urban areas, in the smaller cities, the boys, they move around in gangs. They possess knives, rods. They want to dominate, and so um, just adding to the list is bullying and addiction to social media. This is something which is an alarmingly it is growing, and all of the risky behavior. One of the risky behavior is violence. Can I move on to the next slide, please? So, how do we address it? So, I mean, considering all of those things, as I mentioned earlier, what I suggest that there should be a three-tier addressing the adolescent concern. Primary level is mostly of prevention, and that is the biggest level. At the primary level, we have to address these issues. But we need to have policies and implementation procedures. A lot of information has to be disseminated, and awareness raising has to be done. Education in that, particularly the comprehensive sexual education, that has to be introduced, and that is also introduced in the secondary school curriculum, but that's not being properly implemented. So implementation is a big issue, and that is at the primary level for prevention. And as I said, that this is the biggest level that we have to address. We have to pay attention. Secondary level, once the problems have started, we need to identify and provide services. One way of providing the services is setting up adolescent-friendly health service centers. I mean, within the big centers, within the big health centers, quite often the adolescents, they don't want to walk in because a lot of the elder women and men and children are looking around, and a boy wants to walk in and obtain some services, so they don't feel comfortable. So that's one way in setting up services for them. And in that one, there has to be a lot of counseling on how to reduce the risks. Third level, the tertiary one, is treatment. So these boys and girls who are already addicted or who are already behaving differently, they need mental health support. I mean, mentally they have to be supported. Uh, Quite often, the ones those who are drug addict, if when they leave the drugs, they need a lot of rehabilitation. So that's the tertiary level. In a way, we need to approach the life in a life cycle methodology. In a life cycle methodology, that's the best way to go about it. But here we need to take a pause and understand that this all of the things which I have mentioned earlier needs a multi-ministerial effort, where health ministry is one, but there are other ministries like education, social welfare, home affairs. Home affairs deals with the narcotics, religious affairs, women and children affairs, youth and sports. I mean, we do have a ministry who deals with youth, and in that one they have already introduced sports there. So all of these, the ones they need to be involved. Constant supervision is just not involving the ministries, but also once the programs are set up, that has to be constantly supervised. Joint monitoring system has to be developed. Operation research and changing policies and implementation steps are required. So going forward, I have the last slide. Can I? No. Okay. You can skip this one. Last slide. Going forward. Okay. So I have these are all suggestions, but we need to act upon these suggestions. The gatekeepers, the parents, they have a big role in for the adolescents, not only for their managing their health issues or the reproductive and sexual issues, but the gatekeepers, the teachers, among the gatekeepers, the parents are the big but the ones which are the teachers, their second group, they need to be fully aware of the situation and they need to be involved in the different activities. Formal and informal community leaders, other ones, those who need to be involved, religious leader at all levels need to be motivated and trained on adolescent reproductive health. And as I was focusing on adolescent person and gender issues. There is a big gender issue in all of the activities, in all of the things that are happening. Service providers, that's the second group. The service providers at all levels should be trained on adolescent health, I would say. It's not only adolescent reproductive health. Additional support should be provided to catalyze increased knowledge and attitudinal and behavior change among service providers. So the service providers is the biggest group. For those who need some training, they need to be trained on how to provide mental health support and how to do counseling and so all this. An effective referral system should be developed because earlier I mentioned that there are three levels, I mean the primary, secondary, and tertiary level. So there has to be a referral mechanism between these ones. More female doctors to be deployed for the provision of adolescent reproductive health service to the adolescent girls. Maybe paramedics, more female paramedics, the midwives, they can be brought into this action, and they can be deployed. Counseling services for male and female adolescents need to be arranged. This counseling service provision is not available in the country. Overall, the system of providing counseling services separately is not there in the country. So we need to think about seriously that how we can do it and how we can set it in. A lot of counseling being done by the providers, but that's on an ad hoc basis because they are basically meant to provide the services. So along with the services, they provide counseling. And adolescent family life education needs to be developed. And because there are a lot of behavioral change issues, and so for that one, the behavioral change communication, IEC materials, and adolescent family life education curriculum needs to be developed. Um, Increased networking between all relevant government organizations, NGOs working with adolescents should be encouraged. And particularly, I would end up here by saying that address the adolescents in the hard to reach areas. There are lot of adolescents and youths left out in the hard to reach areas, out of school adolescents, dropouts, the adolescents living in slums, homeless, and marginalized ones should be given due attention. I believe I have at the end. So thank you very much. And I have the
Thank you.
next slide.
Yeah, thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Dr. Faisal. And we did the program a little bit out of order, so apologies for that. And I think a lot of you know Dr. Faisal and his very long, esteemed career that he's done in adolescent health. So thank you for sharing those perspectives. I'm going to hand over now to Shaikat to introduce himself, who's our co-moderator. Thanks, Shaikat.
Thank you so much, Lucy. And I also thank Dr. Abu Jamil Faisal for his very nice presentation as well as informative. I was also following the meeting chat, but I will make some comments later. So good morning and afternoon, everyone, depending on where you are joining us from. My name is SM Shoykot, and I am the Executive Director of SERAC. SERAC is a youth-focused organization working and advocating for the rights and issues that young people are affected and driving development initiatives in Bangladesh. We at SERAC, we believe in the power and potential of young people, and I'm particularly passionate about improving access to youth and adolescent-friendly health services in the country. I'm so thankful that we have colleagues and partners, including the government, the DGFP, the DGHS, ICDDRB, Plan International, and many other colleagues, Nari Moitri, BBC Media Action, and definitely Mott MacDonald. We all together, we really aim all vision together to achieve a sustainable development, and no one left behind when we're talking about adolescents. Definitely there was a discussion that don't forget ICD, don't forget adolescents with disabilities. We do not forget adolescents living in the urban slums or living in the rural areas. So I'm thankful to my colleague Lucy for supporting me when it was a bit challenging in the beginning joining this call. I couldn't unmute. And please apologies if there was anything that I missed, but I hope that throughout this process I'll be able to recognize your contributions and participation. So with that, I hand it over to Lucy again. And so the next session, the session one, the moderator of the session one, Tasnia, is also, I see you're there, my colleague. So probably, yes, go ahead. Thank you so much.
Yeah, go ahead, Tasnia, and we'll change slides when you need. Just say when you need the slides moving on. Thank you.
So we need Khadija presenting and Tasnia moderating. So just unmute yourselves. You should have the ability.
Yeah, thank you, Sukaina and Natasha. Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, everyone. This is Tasni Ahmed, and I'm working as a program manager at SERAC. And I would like to thank you at first, the Faisal Bhai, for this insightful presentation, so that the people, I mean, the other speakers and the presenter will be on the same page, which is our main objective for this session, especially this adolescent forum as well. So thank you again, Faisal Bhai. And with this note, I'm going to moderate this session, which is focusing on some new approaches and new innovation, focusing on the adolescent-led programming. And with these things, I would like to introduce our presenter of this session, Khadija Kalam, who is the SBCC officer on the Improving HR in Dhaka project at SERAC, Bangladesh, because Khadija is working with the adolescents, sexual and reproductive health and rights, and gender-based violence with their skill building training and other programs, especially for the community young volunteers. So over to you, Khadija, for your presentation, and good luck.
Thank you so much. Hello and assalamu alaikum everyone, and good morning and good evening, good afternoon, according to your time zones. Can we go back to the previous slide, please? Okay, thank you so much. Actually, I'm going to present the initiatives that we at SERAC are implementing right now or have been implementing since the formal journey. So SERAC, as our executive director shared, that SERAC is a youth-led organization, and we are working towards youth SRHR, family planning, and mental health, especially, and we by using smart advocacy, strategic communication, and capacity development for youth. And we are working with the DG Family Planning, DG Health, Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, and other ministries from a very long time since now. And moving to the next slide, I'm going to present the interventions that we are implementing right now. That we have introduced the volunteer peer model that we call the VPL model at the 20 selected government-run adolescent-friendly health corners. And 2 VPLs per center are representing there for the youth, and they are strengthening the referral mechanism as well as improving the client flow at the centers, making the centers more adolescent friendly. And also we are working at the urban community, especially with the low socioeconomic community at the urban areas, where our volunteers who are named as Projonan Shastha Bondhu are coordinating with the general practitioners and promoting reproductive health services at a very affordable prices at the low socioeconomic communities at the urban areas. Connecting with that, we have also developed SBCC contents on adolescent-friendly health services, which are very helpful for the communities to understand and reach out to their nearby health centers. Moving to the next slide. Okay, we also have a social media platform that is like other social media platforms, which is called SERAC Network. That is a platform for youth to connect with others around the country and share their ideas, share their activities with in the same platform. And also, we have trained 1,500 adolescent leaders on child marriage to prevent child marriage in their respective local areas and be the adolescent leader in their areas as well. And also, we have trained 40 adolescent and young people on develop the Bangladesh National Hub on mental health, who are working in their communities to support their peers, their like-minded people, and their the adolescents and other young people on their mental health issues. And moving to the next slide. Okay, we also SERAC also hosts the largest platform for youth family planning, that is Bangladesh National Youth Conference on Family Planning, which is a platform in the Asia that is hosted by SERAC which is focused on youth family planning, and this platform connects the youth family planning stakeholders and SRS policymakers at the same platform, and putting the youth at the heart of this conference. And we also engage our youths and adolescents at the high-level policy advocacy meetings to represent their demands and bring effective changes at the policy level wherever needed to represent their needs and demands. And also we have arranged training sessions for the adolescent and young people, especially focusing on their value clarification and attitude transformation on SRH through different trainings. And moving to the next slide, we have also engaged the young people in developing a policy brief on accessibility of comprehensive sexuality education. Along with that, our young people and volunteers, they arrange knowledge dissemination meetings at the community level to promote SRH knowledges and raising awareness. So this was in a brief the initiatives and interventions that SERAC is implementing currently. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Khadija. And I think that's a very great summary with the program, especially SERAC, how SERAC is working with young people, not only in the grassroots levels, and also in the decision-making process with the help of DGFP, DGHS, and other CSO stakeholders. Thank you again. And with that note, I'm going to introduce my panelists for this session. Dr. Manzoor Hossain, Dr. Kamrul Nahar, and Dr. Ferdowsi Begum. So, Dr. Manzoor Hossain is the National Program Manager of Adolescent and Reproductive Health in the Directorate General of Family Planning, and he's a medical graduate who has spent over 2 decades with the DGFP focusing on the adolescent health activities. We have also another panelist, Dr. Kamrul Nahar. He is the Head of Research, Maternal and Child Health Division at ICDDRB, and he is a social scientist and medical doctor with more than 30 years of experience in health and population research, and currently leading research in maternal and child health at ICDDRB. And lastly, we have another panelist, Dr. Ferdowsi Begum. She is the lead of sexual and reproductive health and rights at Plan International Bangladesh, and she is also working with the Plan like I would like to welcome all of my panelists in this session, and I'm also promote my audience to just post your question in the Q&A chat at the same time. So if you have any questions, any comment or feedback, you can just post it in our chat box. So with that note, I would like to request Dr. Manzoor Bhai, I would like to add a question with you, especially about the role that how government, especially the DGFP, is focusing or playing in fostering the innovation programs, because you have done so many things about the adolescent programming, especially not only in the field level rather than in the decision making. So I would like to address you that how government or DGFP can engage different stakeholders effectively about to engaging adolescent programs connecting to the national operational work plan. So over to you, Manzoor Bhai, and next 8 minutes it's for you.
Okay, thank you, Tasnia. Can you hear
Manzoor
me?
Bhai, hear us?
Can you hear me? Hello, Tasnia.
Yes.
We can hear
Yes.
you. We can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I'm from office, so I have no video facilities, so my face should be seen by others.
No
You have okay. Actually, we have a team, Minister of Health and Family Welfare, and Director General of Family Planning, working for 36 million adolescents to improve their health and well-being. Our theme, healthy and informed adolescents and the future of Bangladesh. With this motto, we are doing a lot of activities for our adolescents, how we can address their reproductive health, violence against adolescents, adolescent nutrition, and also you have rightly mentioned here, adolescent mental health. As we know, lots of problems are there. Already Abu Jamal Faisal has mentioned all the activities and all the problems what we are facing currently. He has mentioned here lots of things. Being a adolescent program manager and as a government official, what we are doing, I'll mention here briefly. We have goals and objectives to improve the access to and quality of adolescents' health in our existing facilities. DGIP has taken initiative, adolescent-friendly health services, to give information, services, and referrals linkage mechanism. We have established more than 1,200 adolescent-friendly health corners in our existing health facilities. As you know, adolescent is a crucial subject, and to handle adolescence is also a crucial issue. So we don't have actual scale human research to address the adolescent health problems. So we have taken initiative to train our existing health service providers how they can convey or how they can conduct good counseling, quality services, and refer them to the appropriate places. As you know, adolescent marriage adolescent pregnancy is a crucial issue in Bangladesh. We have to come know that 50% adolescents girls married before their age of 18. 24% adolescent girls became pregnant before 18. And these are the contributing factor to maternal mortality in Bangladesh. As we know, 40% of maternal mortality, those have contributed to those who are adolescent pregnancy. So in this issue, Bangladesh government has taken so many initiatives. Bangladesh government has international commitment and there is national commitment. And I have meant to mention here, if you think about the global strategy for women 2016 to 2030, in align with the global strategy for women, children, and adolescent health, we have already come to know that BJP has developed a national adolescent health strategy to address the adolescent problems. Especially four thematic area already I have mentioned earlier, that is reproductive health problem, violence against adolescents, adolescent nutrition, and adolescent mental health. In this context, Bangladesh government has given special emphasis on Bangladesh population policy focused on a specific adolescent welfare program. In this context, we have just going to end our fourth sector program. Now, fifth sector program is going on. SIP already developed, program implementation plan already draft ready. We are going to develop our OPs. In fifth sector program, adolescent health problem has got special attentions, like in our existing facilities, adolescent mental health we cannot address properly, but in this sector program, we have given special emphasis for how we can improve adolescent mental health and well-being, especially depression, anxiety, stress, how can we address in this regard. Bangladesh government also Child Marriage Restraint Act 2017, you don't know, it has replaced the previous rules in 1929. So, we have intentions, adolescent health should be in place in all policies. You have already come to know that adolescent health policies is there, national policy is there, adolescent strategy is there. We have adolescent health, national plan of actions is there. Now we are going to finalize our costed action plan for adolescent health. With the theme, we are not now interested to do the adolescent health services fragmented way. We want to come in integrated approach, how we can address our adolescent problem. In this regard, DJFT has so many initiatives. We have door-to-door service facilities. Those who are conducting our FWS, they are giving information to the adolescents, to the community. Abu Jamal Faisal already mentioned here, out of school and hard to reach areas. We have to, that to address the hard to reach areas and also dropouts, adolescent girls and boys, we are conducting satellite clinic at the communities. So where we can give the information to our stakeholders. Not only that, we have a special program, adolescent school health.
Can you please shorten the things? I know GGFT and GGHS is working so many things, especially for the adolescent focus.
Okay, I'll take just 1 minute.
Yeah.
We have a special program in for the adolescent school health program. We are giving information to the adolescents what they will do, where if they face any health problem, where they will come. And lastly, we are giving services from our facilities in regards to all that. Not only that, we are providing ministerial hygiene management tools, materials from our health facilities. And lastly, we are providing all the adolescent health reproductive related drugs free of cost for the treatment personnel who need for the adolescents. Thanks to all. If any questions, then I can help.
Yeah, thank you so much, Manzoom. I think if anyone has any question, the questions will be in the chat box. And thank you again for your valuable insights, because the DGFP, as you said, the DGFP and DGTS is doing so many things, especially for the adolescent reproductive health. And I think we will learn a lot from other days as well. So thank you again. And this time I'm going to move to another our speaker, that is Dr. Kamul Nahar, and who is working with the ICTRB. So Kamul Nahar, floor is for you, especially focusing on how the sustainable and long-term impact will be you are going to doing throughout your organization by doing evidence-based advocacy initiatives in Bangladesh. So we know that we are being late for our time. So next 7-20 minutes is for you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Tasnia, for the great question. I also like to thank Mott MacDonald and SERAC Bangladesh for organizing this very important webinar, especially for those who are working, someone like me who are working in this adolescent area and understand the adolescent need, and also design some or create some evidence on based on which the others can also work on in this area. So your question about generating evidence and the and advocacy, right? Can you repeat, because the line was not very clear? A specific question.
Yeah, I was asking that how especially ICTTLB can ensure the sustainability and long-term impact on adolescent-led programming, especially evidence-based advocacy initiatives in Bangladesh.
Okay, thank you. So I think there are a couple of things that should be kept in mind if we want to have a sustainable program based on evidence. So first thing that needs to be we should keep in mind is whether the program is based on the evidence, and that evidence can come from a small area or can be from a national program, whether the the program which is designed based on evidence is really scientific. So, and in that area, for example, we already know what are the needs of young people in Bangladesh from different studies or anecdotal evidence. And Faisal Bhai and Manjur Bhai, they already mentioned. And based on this evidence, Bangladesh has already formulated the national strategy for adolescent health. So to keep this sustainable, I think the program design, what we design, the program what we need to design is has to be designed with those who can really take it forward. For example, that has to be with the government. And government has taken a lot of initiatives, and we need to, whoever we need to work with the government so that they are the one who can really take the lesson forward and really make it sustainable. And the third thing I think is very important to involve youth in the program, because they are the main target audience, and until and unless we involve them in the program design and they own it and they are part of it, I think this program cannot be sustainable. So as we have limited time, so if you have any question or follow-up question, I would be happy to answer.
Thank you so much, Appa. So, I mean, so much concise things you have just focused in your speech. So, yeah, I think that there should be some questions or any comments that must be you can share in your chat box. In the meantime, I would like to move to my next presenter, Dr. Ferdowsi Begum, who is also working and plans. So, Ferdowsi Appa, over to you. But before going to that, I would like to know especially on the technology base, because you are working on that in that phase very nicely. So I would like to know in what ways you can or the plan you can work on the health technology be utilized to enhance the effectiveness and reach adolescent-led programming, not only in the urban level, and also in the rural level, so that the I mean the whole technology can be used in a very proper channel. So next 7 to 8 minutes, it's over to you, Apa.
Thank you, audience. Good afternoon and good morning and good evening to the audience who are presenting from the different part of the world. It's really my pleasure to share the technology. But before I go to the technology part, I would like to share some key facts that we are facing. Like our government as a whole, Ministry of Health, has taken many initiatives for the adolescent and youth group. But we have to understand one phenomena that in Bangladesh, we already know that 1/3 of rural population are adolescent and youth, and 40% of total population live in the urban areas. So yes, we need the program for whole country, but we have to be very focused about the 40% of total population who lives in urban areas, especially more than 50% lives them in the slums, and another part is like as I mentioned, 1/3 of the total urban population is adolescents. So what are the really basic challenges they are facing? I will share 1 minute, then I will go to the technology base. Like they are in urban settings, you know that the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare have their tertiary facilities in the urban areas, but the Ministry of LGRD, they are providing health services to the urban municipalities. So all the system we have been hearing is not available in the urban areas. So this is one of the gaps. So important issue is that sexual reproductive health right information and services access is very limited for the urban population. Sexual, on the other hand, harassment, what Faisal Bhai also echo in his presentation, the violence, harassment is increasing. The pregnancy rate in the urban, especially in the slums, is twice than the normal population of the country. And there is a huge unmet need in the urban areas. So this is the kind of a problem existing. So if you really try to meet this problem, you will be happy to know that plan has taken multi-dimension, multi-variant, like digitally based intervention to inform the adolescent. Is a offline, online digital platform, so that through that digital platform, they can, even during the COVID period, like they continue the gender equity movement class through this digital, using the digital platform. So we are working with the Ministry of Education to create this digital version, so that using that digital version, not only the school adolescent, you know that child marriage is one of the big issue in Bangladesh, and child marriage related other health consequences is happening. So maternal mortality and child mortality is very high. So what is we are doing, that we're using the Champion of Change module for out of school adolescents, online and offline version. So with that module, they are learning about the age-specific comprehensive sexuality education in school and in out of schools. This is giving them the opportunity to empower them with knowledge. And on the top of that, some other few initiatives I would like to mention here, like having youth club and community watchdog in the urban areas, especially where the sexual violence and harassment is very high. And also like Free Friday schools, like to create a safe space in the urban area where we have limited space to play and move around, share our feelings, improve our mental health, is one of the innovative approaches we can think of for the urban population, not only urban population, for the overall population, this huge number of population in Bangladesh. That the last but not the least important component, as I had mentioned, that the pregnancy and family planning unmet need is very high in the urban area. So we can develop digital app for them, so that they, irrespective whether they're using the Android or normal phone, they can have access to that app so that they know from where they will get the family planning method based on their need, whether they live in the urban areas, slums, or any hard to reach areas, so that their unwanted pregnancy will be prevented and their unmet need of the family planning will be addressed. If we can do that, our girls and young women in all their diversity will be able to have control over their bodies, enjoy positive sexual experience, and realize the full extent of their sexual and reproductive health rights, free from discrimination, coercion, and violence, both in development and humanitarian setting. Thank you for giving me the time.
Thank you so much, Appa. So I think one of the comment I just got to add the ICT division. Yeah, we were unable to include ICT division, but we are in talking about how we can utilize this ICT and digital platforms, especially for the adolescent-led programming. But with that note, is there any questions? Sukarna, I don't find any questions. Can you help me on that?
Yes, I can definitely help you. We did have one, and I think this was in relation to the presentation. Do you have any plans to add caregivers so they can increase the bond among them and share their learning with each other? So I think that was for you, Khadija, in relation to your original presentation. And just before you answered that, Natasha, do you mind if we just move across one slide, just so it's clear we're in the panel discussion segment and people are one more. Thank you. And then, and people, you're free to post your one back, Natasha, please. Just one back. Thank you. Cheers. So, Khadija, just let me repeat that question. Do you have any plans to add caregivers so that they can increase the bond among them and share their learning with each other?
Can I, this is Faisal. Can I answer to this question?
Yeah, I think so. And I'll just also unmute the requester just in case they want to make their question a little clearer. So go ahead, Dr. Faisal.
I'm engaged with a group called the Cancer Care Community. I mean, this is a group of young university-going students, some medical students, and so they have formed a group where they are actually providing mental support and some technical means medicine support to the cancer patients. And the caregivers, all of them are caregivers, so they do meet and they exchange their learnings, their experiences, and that is giving that group a great and immense help. That how they are expanding it. So yes, the caregivers shall have to be involved, and so that they can share their experiences, and that helps the others, certainly. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Faisal. I don't know if Khadija wanted to come in there, and there's one more follow-up question before we move on. Okay, I will just move on to that in the interests of time in that case. So a question from Asfia Azim. Sorry, was that Khadija? Oh, no. Okay. Do you have any interventions focusing on adolescent nutrition? If so, what are topics you cover under the adolescent nutrition component? And I think that's quite an open question in respect to our panelists. So whoever would like to come in, please do.
Yeah, this is Firdaus again. I would like to share.
Go for it, Dr.
Plan has a huge intervention in Rangpur division where we're working with the school student, 331 schools where we provide the nutrition information as a part of our gender equity movement in school intervention. and all dimension of like nutrition sensitive and nutrition specific information they are getting from their classes, and their teacher are trained by the master trainer of the Directorate of Secondary Education and Plan International team. And they also students of the East school, they have the school gardening component, and they know like which planting which planting they will do during which part of the years, and how they will do the proper cooking, like cooking demonstration they are having. And during the demonstration they also have described like what are the nutrition value of the foods they are cooking, and why it is so important to have the nutrition food in different age life, different in the life cycle approaches. On the top of that, they also maintain a adolescent corner where they have a system to make the height and weight to use like to calculate the BMI. All the students of 331 schools, they know how to, if you go and ask, they will be able to tell your BMI, your height, whether you are malnourished or overnourished. So this kind of information is providing in our schools in Rangpur divisions. Thank you.
How do you reach out? Hi, Sukaina. Regarding the question about nutrition program regarding adolescent nutrition, so I would like to add here.
Sure.
That is, yes, we have our school health programs and also the community session programs that we call the community educator based programs. We covered the adolescent nutrition part in the sessions. We discussed with the adolescents about their the nutrition that they need, the food that they should choose in their diet, and also the food that they should intake during their menstruations, time of menstruation, and also in our VPL model, that's volunteer peer leader model, as they are recruited at the adolescent friendly health corner, so they give support to the adolescents that visit the centers with the needed information, and also BCC materials that shows the correct information, and also links to the hotline numbers or other sources where they can reach out for further access, further information regarding nutrition and other health issues. So this is how we are actually working for adolescent nutrition programs. Thank you.
Many thanks, Khadija. So thank you so much for session one panelists, including you, Tasnia. Just in the interest of time, there are some questions. Would be really great for our panelists to respond via text and chat individually. And if you could hand over to our next session moderators and presenters, that would be great.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right, thanks so much to the speakers from session one. And yeah, it's a shame, it's a great discussion, but we will continue and get back to people. Just wanted to switch now to our second session, where we're going to look at how we can deliver at scale and really utilize other sectors and these kind of integrated approaches that people have been talking about, harnessing other sectors and the private sector as well as digital. As we've said, it's a critical time. We've got this huge cohort of adolescents, and there's both a challenge but also an opportunity to really let them be at the forefront of solutions. So next slide, please. Just want to briefly show this framework, which is adapted from a USAID one, along with the Youth Power Learning. It's become a kind of cornerstone of contemporary youth programming, in that the evidence suggests that really if you systematically seek to build the agency and the assets and the contribution of youth, and within an enabling environment, your programs are much more likely to be effective, and they also need to be multifaceted and integrated and delivered by, with, and for youth, and paying attention to the different platforms and the determinants which will sort of both have some impact. As I said at the beginning, we're talking about not just health in the narrow sense, but really the wider sort of well-being for youth. So we're very pleased to be, have some of the youth champions that have been supported by SERAC here attending today. Increasingly, these are the generation that need to be at the forefront of this debate. Next slide, please. Yes. So just wanted to, as other government representatives here have been talking about the excellent work being done by government, there is a really comprehensive national strategy for adolescent health. So Bangladesh, as often it is, on the forefront of, of really sort of evidence-based programming for adolescents. But at the same time, and as speakers have already commented, there's still some really difficult barriers and obstacles, such as a high rate of school dropouts, stubbornly high adolescent fertility, child marriage, and this is something of a paradox for Bangladesh, given it was really at the sort of leading the way with the fertility transition in the 80s and 90s. So it's really the question is how in this remaining period, how can government be best supported to harness other sectors to really operationalize this strategy and really pay attention to implementation at scale. Next slide, please. We're going to just talk briefly in the time I have about some of the experience from our projects, where we've done some learning on why successful projects work. I won't go into these things in detail, but it's basically these principles of having young people involved as partners, recognizing diversity and innovating. And where you let young people lead, you can't fail, but innovation then follows. And there's some really excellent examples of some quite low-tech ways of innovating that really address social norms. For example, using basic mobile phones, doing sort of audio dramas that people can interact with. So there's a lot of tools there. Next slide, please. Just want to say, when we're talking about reaching adolescents at scale, you really need to start with the education sector. And I think we need to lean more heavily on the education sector to do more, even though there's a lot of work already going on in schools, but it's really the best way to reach the biggest number, especially when we're targeting that younger age group, which really is needed, before they've already left school and it's too late. Schools are primarily there for education, but they're about so much more, and More Than Grades is actually the title of a learning brief that Mott MacDonald has just brought out about his experience. I'll talk a little bit more about social and emotional learning in the next slide. But we know the importance of being in school for girls, for controlling and for reducing fertility, and that's been a big debate. But recent analysis really shows that female education has been the most dominant factor. Schools are a platform, as we've been hearing from, they do a lot of this work about providing SRH skills, nutrition information, distributing sanitary napkins. They could perhaps do more in terms of that transition to vocational training and employment. And I think the most critical question seems to be what is needed to keep girls in school. Is that making much more obvious links to their future employability, providing very safe and respectful environments, just basic things like having good, clean toilets that function and that allow them to go when they're menstruating. Next slide, please. So just briefly, there's a project called the Girls Education Challenge Project, which was a global project led by Mott MacDonald in 17 countries. The aim was really for girls to finish primary education and transition into secondary and then onto vocational or employment. One of the main interventions was about girls' clubs and safe spaces, which were kind of weekly spaces where girls could come and involved in interactive discussion, helped with a peer, mentor, facilitator, get advice on sexual reproductive health, and also do some social emotional learning. And they've found to be very hugely successful in terms of these successful transitions into higher education and employment. And factors like inviting parents and caregivers were very, have helped hugely, as well as being inclusive and tackling, really targeting the most marginalized girls who might be most at risk of leaving school. Next slide, please. Then youth pathways, speaking with some of my colleagues who've worked very closely in this skills area, the needs, there's this concept of really deliberately targeting the youth pathways that connect people with the skills that they're going to need, and actually nurturing these pathways through partnerships, often with the private sector, employers, training groups, and balancing scale with vibrant and locally responsive solutions that work for a context. And we've found that fund management has allowed us sort of a way of getting that balance right. And we know that USAID is investing in Youth Core, which can help take these kind of programs to scale. And again, using behavioral insights is really important to help people get familiarity with these pathways, what they look like, how they do it, and it's just those granular steps. Next slide, please. Thank you. And then finally, it's not limited to the health sector, the education sector. These are two very important sectors, but really youth positive development can be mainstreamed in all that we do. And in fact, some of the most exciting work that Mott MacDonald is doing is mainstreamed within our other wider social development and climate change programs, where we, can help improve access and build skills, build the agency and assets of people in a quite sort of integrated way, as many of the speakers have been talking about. So a sort of an advocacy challenge, I would say, to all of us who care about adolescent health is to really engage with these colleagues. Final slide, please. So very briefly, in conclusion, I think we need to collaborate energetically with the education sector, even more energetically, to promote socio-emotional learning. We need to really pay attention to youth pathways and transitions, make use of behavioral science as well and digital tools, and then embed adolescent strategies. And everything needs to be at the forefront with youth, by youth, and for youth. So thank you very much. And I'll hand back over to our moderator. I think it's Shaikat. Thank you.
Thank you. Next slide, please, Natasha, just before Shaikat takes over.
Thanks so much, Lucy. It is so great to listen to you. And although we know we're quite behind from the time, so I would try to be brief in terms of moderating the session. So as we know, we have a great audience today. At the same time, the panels are really, the panelists are really very active in the field that we're talking today, and they're bringing in a lot of perspectives and discussion, which we are also following the chat. So for the session 2, which is which you initiated with the presentation, is being shared by 3 distinguished colleagues from BBC Media Action: Richard Lace, who is the Director of Programs, Shaheen Akhtar Dolly, who is the Executive Director of Nari Maitri, and Dr. Shamsul Haq, who is the Program Manager of Adolescent and School Health from the Director General of Health Services. All the 3 distinguished colleagues and speakers are really amazing in terms of their portfolios. To say in brief, Richard has over 20 years of experience in designing, implementing, and evaluating media and communication programs across multiple sectors. Provides leadership and technical oversight to a program portfolio reaching over 110 million people in 20 countries. So if we start with you, Richard, the first question to you would be, can you give us some examples and ideas of how effective and impactful it can be to introduce the digital approach in promoting social and behavior change communication materials, especially among adolescents and in Bangladesh? Yes, Richard, over to you.
Thank you, Shaikat. Thanks very much. Thanks very much. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning, good afternoon. Nice to see everybody. Nice to be talking to Bangladesh again. I've missed Bangladesh since I left a year or so ago. Loads to go at. I'll be very fast. I'll draw on some of the things that Lucy has said about the enabling environment. I also think it relates really strongly to what Dr. Faisal was saying around the importance of information dissemination. But I think those things are all incredibly challenging. Let me give you 3 very quick examples and then a very few bits of learning that come out of that story. So starting at the beginning, way back, 2008, when we were working with Mott MacDonald and FCDO and others in Bangladesh on the English in Action program. Many of you will know BBC Janala. Now, that wasn't digital in so much as it was on Facebook or anything, but it was a digital project in that it was using the web, it was using audio on mobile phones, it was using television, but it was also using more traditional learning methods. 28 million reach, really strong uptake among women, really strong uptake around rural populations, lower socioeconomic groups, fantastic evidence of impact in terms of its effect on motivation and confidence of learning. Super project. Could speak for a week about it. Come and see me afterwards if you want to know more. A few years later, 2017, a big adolescent focused multi-platform digital project called Hello Check. Lots of donors involved, FCDO, Canadians, UNFPA, Rutgers, IKEA Foundation, I think many of you on the call as well. It worked particularly successfully around sexual and reproductive health, where the privacy of social media is a real asset. People don't want to go and access face-to-face services if they think they're going to be observed doing so. Dr. Faisal made that point really, really well. But they'll happily sit in their bedrooms on their phone asking questions or accessing information around SRH. And we saw particular success on that. Reach a bit smaller, 7 million, but very focused on adolescents. Real successes on changing attitudes linked to GBV, linked to child marriage, linked to attitudes around girls' education, and some fantastic results in collaborating with government outreach programs to FWAs, FWVs, with DGFP in particular. So really, really strong on that. Even more recent, launched last year, a program called IOJANI, which is specifically, again, focusing on young people, but this time regionally, really focused on the southeast of Bangladesh and with a conflict lens. Facebook again, but the way we use Facebook now compared to what we were doing even 3 or 4 years ago is very different, much more mobile focused, reels, vertical video, technology, and the use of the platform has moved on significantly in just a few years. We're also launching that on TikTok and learning from markets where we're slightly ahead. Cambodia, we've been using TikTok for a while. Indonesia, a really fabulous program called Aksi Kita, which we've been using TikTok for a long time. Still augmenting it with radio, with face-to-face engagement in order to engage any young people who are hard to reach, who maybe don't have mobile internet access, particularly adolescent girls, we find struggle with that sometimes, not necessarily economically challenged, but because their families don't like them to do it. Can't talk to you about the impact of that one yet because we're still, only started it a few months ago, so it's running still. So 3 things through time. What's common about them? Even though the platforms change and the way we use the platforms change, the tried and tested elements of design, what you do in order to understand the audience, to have a really strong underpinning theory of change, communication framework, participatory design within that process, adapting and flexing to the way that the audience behave, still super important. So the platforms shift, but those fundamental social behavior change principles need to still hold. You would be surprised about the difference between what the audience say they want and then what you actually see them doing on platform. So people say, oh no, we don't want to watch a long video on Facebook, it's too long. Actually, our biggest Facebook hit in the last couple of months has been, sorry, I muted myself, has been a long format drama video in Chittagonian dialect aimed at young people in southeast Bangladesh. I've stuck the link in there in case you want to watch it yourself. That's hit 1 million people in the last month with really strong engagement metrics. And I think investing in people who can do that analytics, who can use the data, who can pull out the trends from what you see on these digital platforms and then help you to adapt what you're doing in response to that is a really important thing to have. I also think the other thing that's not really changed in the 20 years we've been doing this is the importance of meeting the audience where they already hang out. That's almost always more effective than trying to drive them to a bespoke platform. some exceptions where it's a very particular audience, like health workers or something, where an app or something like that might work really well. But driving somebody to that is much more difficult than reaching them where they already are on a digital platform, on television, on radio, wherever they hang out normally. And then the last thing I'll say is that engagement with those platform operators is super crucial. So we have really strong links with Facebook, both globally and in Bangladesh. We have really strong links with people like Grameenphone, with ATM Bangla, with all that sort of private sector side of the media industry. And we couldn't do what we do without those relationships, without those engagements that we have with them. The multi-platform approach, so reaching different sub-demographics, different people who hang out in different places, is really, really effective, but it's definitely not simple. You need those platforms to engage with you on it, and you need to then set up a really consistent brand style quality offer across those. But recycling content across multiple platforms doesn't work. You need to really be distinctive. What works on YouTube won't work on Facebook. What works on TV isn't going to work in a face-to-face setting.
Thank you. Thank you, Richard. These are all amazing experiences, and I was like counting down the numbers as well as BBC Journal that I really enjoyed a lot whenever I attended and watched. So thank you so much, Richard, for mentioning all these initiatives. And because of the shortage of our time today, I'm being very quick, to my other panelists. But please note, like when I'm raising hand, it means like you need to please finish. So now I'm going to my colleague Shaheen Akhtar Dolly, who is the Executive Director and Founder of Nari Moitri. She is a social activist with 42 years of experience of working with various government, non-government donor, and UN agencies. So Dolly, about the question to you is, how does Nari Moitri ensure the inclusion of adolescents from underprivileged groups have equal opportunity in their initiatives led by Nari Moitri? Please be brief so we can finish in time. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Shrikot, and good afternoon, all audience. And I am Shaheen Akhtar Dolly, and I am Executive Director and Founder Member of Nari Moitri, a women-led national government organization. Nari Moitri is a women-led national government organization with over 45 of experience in the field of women's empowerment and community development. I have had the privilege of working extensive and create opportunities for marginalized communities, particularly women in Bangladesh. My passion lies in driving positive change and contributing to the sustainable development goals. So this is actually our organizational mission and also that. And I am now answering the question you raised. And at Nari Moitri, we have faced several challenges in our work, particularly in ensuring equal opportunities for all adolescents to achieve quality education and enhance their digital literacy. One of the major barriers we have faced is limited access to educational resources and technology in marginalized communities. Many adolescents in this area lack proper infrastructure such as schools, library, internet connectivity, which hinder their access to quality education and digital learning opportunities. To address this barrier, we have undertaken several strategies. First, we have worked closely with local communities, government authorities, and other stakeholders to advocate for improved infrastructure and resources in marginalized areas. Through our advocacy effort, we have successfully established adolescent clubs, set up computer labs, and facilitated internet connectivity in remote communities, and enabling adolescents to have access in educational materials and enhance their digital literacy. We have developed mobile learning platform and digital education tools that can be accessed through low-cost smartphones or community centers. These platforms provide an interactive educational content skill training and digital literacy programs, and empowering adolescents with knowledge and skill regardless of their geographical location. Furthermore, we have collaborated with private sector partners and donors to share resources and funding for educational initiatives. This partnership have allowed us to provide scholarship, vocational training program, and mentorship opportunity for adolescents, ensuring they have the necessary support to preserve education and enhance their digital skills. In order to ensure sustainability, we also prioritize community engagement and empowerment. And we work closely with parents, teachers, and community leaders to raise awareness about the importance of education and digital literacy. We organize workshop, training, awareness campaign to promote partnership involvement, community support, and conducive learning environment for adolescents. Overall, our approach combines advocacy, innovative technologies, solution, partnership, and community engagement to overcome all barriers and provide equal opportunities for all adolescents to gain quality education and enhance their digital literacy. However, we recognize that this is our ongoing journey, because we are implementing different type of project in Kishorganj, Coxbazar, and Dhaka also. So we continue to learn and adapt our strategies to meet the developing or needs of adolescent in our communities. So thank you very much. This is
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing all these amazing initiatives Nari Moitri is undertaking, and also how the approaches you're using to include adolescents from diversified and marginalized backgrounds. Last but not least, I'm moving on to Dr. Shamsul Haq, who is the Program Manager of Adolescent and School Health from the Director General of Health Services. Dr. Haq is the Program Manager, as I mentioned, and also he looks after the implementation of adolescent and school health program, focusing on facility-based adolescent-friendly SRE services in all the health facilities across the country. So to you, the question is a bit different than usually what we ask you, which is the technology. And because the question is, what role technology play in enhancing the reach and effectiveness of the work and initiatives that your program is undertaking in empowering adolescents in Bangladesh? Dr. Haq, please be brief. It's a kind request. Thank you so much. Over to you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, you are audible. Yes, loud and clear.
Thank you. It is my pleasure to be here to present on behalf of DGHS, as I am working as a program manager adolescent and school health program in DGHS since 7 months. Earlier, this program is running through MNCA's operation plan since 2011, though it is scaled up in 2016 in 4th sector program. Now we are working in 3 strategic area, that is school based as well as community and facility based. Earlier, DGFP had mentioned that they have a lot of adolescent friendly health service center. Like them, we are also establishing the health facility service center in facility which are present in district and as well as Upazila level. That is Upazila Health Complex and district hospital. As you know, school health program components is here the school health clinic, also representing the adolescent health program also there. In case of empowering the adolescent, we are doing through the capacity building of the peer approach as well as community mobilization through awareness build up, and they can engage in prevention of child marriage as well as gender based violence the peer adolescent will definitely affect on empowerment of the adolescent. As per we know, when early marriage happens, they belongs to the new family and their social activity or economical activity is controlled by others in context of our society. In this context, we more focusing about the continuation of the education sector, education career, so that he or he can build themselves as a resource by themselves. So if logging out of from the education life, they cannot be empowered. So DGHS is working in together with Ministry of Education so that education sector can be strengthening through their educational capacity and social mobilization in the as well as you also mentioned that some vocational studies going on. We already decided to scale up our activities in linking with those NGO and partner so that we can reach the outreach student. They are in the late night school, by evening school and vocational school, so that their SRHR right can be preserved. That's it for the fourth sector program. We are scaling up in the fifth sector program in broader sense and broader scale. As you know, we are confined now in 22 districts, but facility is enhancing in 64 districts. Other activities are scaling up in the rest of the districts in the fifth sector program, and combination with the coordination with the national level as well as district divisional level is scaling up in the fifth sector program, which is in the draft. So DGHS is always working for the preserving the rights of the adolescent. Please.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this information that you have shared. As it's also very important that understanding the dynamics of the adolescents and their needs, especially many of them are really behind our national targets. But we all together, including DGHS, DGA, PMA, and the civil society development partners, all together, we're working to support each other, reaching the goal, which is a common one. Thanks so much to all my distinguished panelists, and I know that this is already 7 minutes past the time. I hand it over to Lucy Asakaina, whoever, but if we want to take questions or take it further.
So I've just thank you so much to our panelists and our presenter and Shaikat for moderating the session. I have written a note. We are at time, however, there have been quite a bit of questions, so there are people still on the line. So maybe we can have a go at answering some of them. So bear with me. So we've got a question here. For some of the most marginalised youth who have dropped out of school, can local health structures provide links to referrals to safe spaces for broader interventions to support adolescent health? Do colleagues have experience in scaling through clinics? If any of our panelists would like to answer, it wasn't directed at anyone particular.
I'm wondering if we should actually get back to people, perhaps by email. We've got email addresses of the attendants.
Sure.
Yes, I think maybe people will be dropping off now, and there's some good questions, and I think it would be great to kind of carry on the dialogue with people who've engaged.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thanks. Shaikat, do you just want to sign us off today then in that case? And everyone, thank you for coming. We will endeavour to circulate the slides, but just really want to platform our partner SERAC, who co-delivered this with us and co-organised it as well. So thank you to our panellists as well and presenters.
And I also thank Mott MacDonald for definitely leading all this conversation and everything, and colleagues joined from SERAC and experts on the panel, the colleagues in DGAP and DGHS, Dr. Haq and Dr. Hussain, colleagues from ICDD, Bipla International, Nari Maitri, BBC Media Action. All of you, thank you so much, and all of you who ever reached out to me in person and also on the chat. Thanks so much for your great interest in the discussion. We really look forward to, as Lucy and Sukaina mentioned, we look forward to reaching out to you with the further communication with the slides and more of the responses. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.